Yeah. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome, 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 welcome. There are handouts for everybody that has got both a report for all of the reports that we've got, as well as financials that Jerry is passing out as well. So I think what I would like to do, if there are people that do not have a copy of my handout, there's 4 more of them that are coming off in the back. So I will go back and grab them in just a moment. It should be printing in case we don't have enough. I just wasn't sure whether we were going to run out. If somebody would be willing to light the Christ candle for us from back from the congregation, I would love for... Would you like to do that? Perfect. If you will do that for us. And then Denise, will you lead prayer with this opening?
Christ consciousness as this community, that all thoughts, words, and actions will flow from this Christ consciousness. Let this candle be a reminder of the source of which we come from in all that we do this day.
And so we just thank each and every one that's here. We just take that holy breath and move into a place of clarity and joy and connection and harmony. And we give thanks for each one in this holy space as we open ourselves up to greater and greater communication, understanding, connection, compassion, and communion with the one. For that, we say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.
All right. I have an announcement to make before we start anything. We have a new board member on the board that was selected, Ann Valerone. Would you like to stand and say hi to everybody? That really should have been an announcement made at both services, and I apologize for not doing that one when we talked about the town hall. I should have done it in addition, but it is wonderful to have Ann on for us, with us. There were 6 candidates that were running for the position, and it's wonderful that we have that degree of enthusiasm, interest, and love for this congregation and this church. So thank you, and thank you for Ricky, for Richard, for Bonita, for Latrice, and I'm spacing on Joanne Lewis. Yes, that was the last one. I apologize. I knew that I was missing. Is there anybody that did not get a handout? Perfect. Thank you. All righty. So we've gotten to the senior minister's report. So if Reverend Denise would join us to do that one, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to sort of go over what I want to do in the next few months. I'll be adding onto this list, but I want to spend a little more time with you before I add any more. But a lot of this you are aware of, but I want to go over it again in case you don't know. So I want to introduce all of you or reintroduce you to the mission-centric model, and we'll be implementing the practice mission statement, which we've already done, transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in the world. And so this will allow us to move to a purpose rather than be pushed by a minister, and to know that that we can grow. There's so much happening in our world, but especially in our faith traditions, that churches are sort of shrinking. So we need to, what we say, canoe the mountain. We need to be able to do things differently and throw away our favorite boat and begin to canoe a mountain, because what's ahead of us is nothing like what's behind us, right? So we're looking at a new model of ministry. It's a 400-year-old model of a minister-centric ministries. So it's not going to change overnight, right? So we're trying to shift an entire culture, not just this ministry. So we're just experimenting with that idea and moving into it. And so the second thing I'll be doing is a transformational programs and practices, and we're going to call that pathways to transformation on our website. So the first one is our Journey of Awakening about Eye of the Storm. Talked about that already. Most of you are familiar with that. It's based on a book Gary Simmons wrote. And how we'll do that is 7 weeks. There'll be a lesson from here on Sunday, both services. And then those that want to will be in a study group, either on site or in a home. And they'll follow along with a study guide. So you read the book, you look at the study guide, and you gather together with other people. And that's going to really meet those 7 C's we've been talking about, connection and communion and compassion. It's going to give you a chance to practice those C's in community. That'll start July 14th through August 25th. So I invite you to join a study group. There's not a class. Richard was asking me about, is there a class? We're sort of used to the class. We're not going to do a class. This is sort of a community-guided experience. There's a Sunday lesson, so if you miss Sunday, you could go back and watch it. But we're expecting you to read the book and then have deep and wonderful conversations in your study groups. I personally will be just moving from group to group, just, randomly, and I may show up at a group when you're least expecting me. So that's how I'm not guiding it because we're mostly minister-centric, so if I did it, then you might all come to mine, and that's not going to be fun for everyone. So and I'll be moving around about that. The other transformational process is the Q process. It's based on quantum science and spiritual principles, and that's September 21st. We'll be talking more about that. You could go to theqeffect.com for lots more information. It's the co-founder is Gary Simmons, the author of the book Eye of the Storm. So the Eye of the Storm is the foundational work, the premise of the work of getting no one and nothing is against me. And so I invite you to save that date to join us. I'll be doing it maybe one more time before my time's up with you. So you may want to jump in early. The third thing is community practices. I want to continue what Gregory Roulard started with you in nonviolent communication and restorative circles. So the Monday night healing circle will be continuing on. That is going to be run and facilitated by people who were trained by Gregory. So that will continue on. Tuesday, starting July 9th, I'll start compassionate communication circles based on nonviolent communication. I spoke with Gregory yesterday. I plan to speak with him monthly, so we're on board with what we're doing, with his program and what I'm bringing. And my original thought was just to do a monthly practice group of nonviolent communication, compassionate communication, and he is suggesting we do it more often. So I have a small group of facilitators I'm working with, but it might be more Tuesdays. So what's that book, Tuesdays with Maury? It's going to be Tuesdays with Denise or what? Tuesday. I think it was Tuesdays with Maury, wasn't it? Yeah. It is now, right? So the healing circles and then the compassionate circles. So we'll keep that energy of circle work. It's beautiful community work. And nonviolent communication is close to my heart with Marcia Rosenberg. I am unofficially trained. I'm not a certified trainer, but I've worked with Marshall, and I've also done a lot of work along the side. The second thing I want to work on is creating the restorative circles. So I just finished an online course. I was taking it just for you all. Gregory inspired me, and I hadn't experienced that before. So if you're interested in restorative circles, I want to start something with that. So you could see me about that and what that might look like. So I'll need some help from all of you, and if you have training in that, that'd be even more wonderful. And the last thing is leadership development. I'll be doing leadership development monthly with 2 to 4 hours a month that will get scheduled here shortly. And of course, the board will be the first to be invited in that. Our staff would be invited to that. And any key leader. So it'll be open to anyone who sees themselves as a leader in this ministry. We'll be looking at creating dynamic, thriving, sustainable practices, and we'll be working with the book, The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. You might remember the first week I was with you, I showed a little video. Remember, above the line and below the line? It's with that organization. We're talking about conscious leaders. So we'll be doing more of that. So if you're interested in leadership, you're welcome to join us, and we'll figure that out shortly. I don't have it quite scheduled yet, but it will be 2 to 4 hours per month. And the board is sort of required to be there, but it will be, I think, fun as well. So we'll be learning that together. So that's all I have for you today. I think we'll have question and answer after. Do you want me to do that? No. She does have a question? Right. Yeah. I'm planning to invite other Q coaches. So I know Reverend Levitt is, and maybe Margie. Is Margie? Okay, she's working on it. Mary Paulson. Yeah, Mary's going to work with me. And so I'm going to bring the coaches in for that day. I'm coming to the answer to your question. So I take a long time to get there, but yeah. So we're going to have other coaches to support that experience. And after that begins the 21-day of transformation. So there is a weekly group coaching session after the initial all-day webinar. We'll decide that together. Yeah. There probably is. There's not? Okay. Okay. But it's a required class. Yeah. It's more about transformation than credit. Yeah. 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 Ricky?
I sent you an email about this last night, but I'm sure you haven't seen it because I sent it really late, and it's okay. I sent it to you and Johanna. I noticed on the different advertisements and stuff that the Eye of the Storm group I volunteered to facilitate on Mondays is scheduled for room 201, but also so is the Healing Circle on Mondays. So I wrote you an email last night, to let you know that we've got 2 groups scheduled in the same room on Monday nights.
Okay.
And also to volunteer if there's not going to be a break in the healing circles like you mentioned you might do, I'd be willing to move the Eye of the Storm to another night like Wednesday night. So I figured you could ponder on that. You could think about that because I know there's a wait list for some groups for Tuesday and Wednesdays, and I can do it on Wednesday nights if that would work better.
Wednesday.
So I'll let you kind of think about that.
Yeah, we'll take that up.
Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate it.
And we'll do more questions after all the presentations.
Super. Okay, thank you. For those of you that are online, as of right now, all of this information that is a handout is available to you online. You may need to refresh your browser to be able to get that, but it's now online, okay? And if there are people that are still missing one of these, we printed 25 of them, and I'll see if I can, during the next one, I'll see if I can run off a couple more. Next on the list is the financial report, and Jerry Denton is going to do that one.
So I handed out the most recent statements we have, which are effective as of May 31st. These have actually been reviewed by the accounting firm and provided to us. You'll find that there's basically a balance sheet, and then there is 5 months through May 31st actual accrual and then for the month of May. What I want to talk about today is primarily the one that says 5 months ended May 31st. Anytime you look at any individual month, it can fluctuate, so you don't get as good a picture as you do when you get a longer period of time. So that's why I want to focus on this. And then I've got some closing statements, and I want to let you know that I did not, in fact, confer with Reverend Denise beforehand, although our messages are going to be very similar. First of all, really very basic things I want to talk about. If you look at the revenues, the top of the donations, you'll see that we got 83.19% of our donations, so we did pretty well through the first 5 months. And if you look at our total revenue, at the bottom of that column on the right, where it says 91.82% of our total revenue against budget, so we're only 8% off of budget for our income, which is really very good. So if you go down to the bottom of the next column right there, the total expenses, and if without picking through everything, but if you just look at our total expenses are at 100.42%. In other words, we're only 0.42% above our budgeted expenses. So that expresses to you that our staff has done a really good job of maintaining our costs, and we have actually seem to be in pretty good shape as far as our revenue. And that's as far as I'm going to dig into this. Is there any further we want to go? Because I do have many other things to say. But so at the bottom, so what would be indicated is that we're holding our own. We're doing pretty well. And considering the somewhat tumultuous environment that we've been in, that's saying something pretty good for us. And I would express that is true. However, there are some caveats that I need to help you be aware of. We have incurred some legal bills. Last year, we dealt with some opportunities in clarifying the relationship with the school. We've had some security issues, which have incurred some legal bills that are not reflected here that we need to address, about $14,000 worth. And then additionally, and this is something very dear to my heart, is our work with UWM in the transition period, where we brought Nicholas Griffin in, and then we brought in UWM with Reverend Doug and Cynthia, and then we brought in Gregory Rouillard, and now we have our transitional minister in. These have brought in some additional expenses above budget, and that'll be somewhere in the $35,000 range, okay? Just a ballpark number so you can understand where we stand, okay? So these are expenses that we hadn't anticipated, so they will be outside of budget. And then additionally, we have some credit card that we're paying off to cover our monthly operating expenses, and we're paying those off first because they have the highest interest. It doesn't take rocket science. Those of us with credit cards know how that goes. And then we want to be ready as a ministry so that when we are ready, that we can afford to bring ministerial candidates here. So we need to look ahead. We need to be aware of the requirements we have now to take care of this transitional period. And this is an exciting period. This is what will help Unity Church of Hawaii prosper and grow and fulfill its mission moving into the future, is this transition we're in right now. So it's not that we're incurring debt. And that's part of what I want to speak to. We are in transition. And, change, it's never comfortable, but it's always for the good. We just may not see it at the time, but this change is starting to feel pretty good. I like our new mission statement, transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in the world. I want to be a part of that. I want all of us to be a part of that. I want us to accept and adopt that and know that that is who we are, and that's our mission moving forward. Because we're not always sure what our mission is here. And when I'm speaking now from a financial standpoint, it seems to be the basis of how we rate things, if you will. And I wanted to express, we are in transition from a minister-centric ministry to a mission-centric ministry. We started that 9 months ago, believe it or not. We first started this discussion. But now we're hitting it full speed. And now we've got the tool in Reverend Denise to help us facilitate that transition. As she said, this is not going to happen overnight. It's going to address the very fundamentals of who we are, how we see ourselves, and how we invite God into the conversation. This is important things that we're going to be doing. So how does it have to do with finances? Everything. Okay, it really does. Because where is our sense of prosperity? Where is our sense of good? Where is our sense of supply, our source? It's up to us to remember where that is. And our board is taking a more holistic approach than we ever have before. We're going to be approaching how we work with these opportunities for fundraising, okay, from a more holistic approach. We're going to work with the strategic planning committee and the school and the staff and the fundraising committee and the finance committee. We're all going to work together to set a path that we can follow and we can all buy into, that is part of what our mission is, not just paying bills. Our mission is to further who we are here. It's not to pay bills. And there's work that's already been done. And you know, I'm in recovery too. And I once had one of my sponsees tell me, he said, Jerry, you know, recovery is so hard. It seems like every day is tedious. He says, it's like climbing a mountain. He said, but you know, every now and then I have to stop and look back and see how far I've come. And I'll offer that for us too. If we look at where we were just not too long ago and where we are now, there's a difference. There's a new energy. There's a new aliveness. You know, an example was mentioned by Thomas. We had 6 people step forward for a position on a board, and any of those 6 people would have been a blessing for the board. What a position that is for us to be in. And Reverend Denise, what a treat we have here. How we've got someone here who really, I've had the opportunity of getting to know her in a couple of different venues. She's real clear about what's right, what's appropriate, and what's good, and what the best position to take is. And I believe that she is the right one to help our board clarify our path forward. Okay, so that's my soapbox. One thing, I want to say, you know, the work that's being done by the board now. Our previous board did a great job as far as improving our accountability and our transparency. You know, I have heard some disparaging things said about them, but I was part of that board, and you know what? They busted their butts, and they worked really hard, and they helped us get where we are. There's absolutely no question about that, and I commend everyone who is a part of that group. Thank you, Ricky and Richard. Finally, the treasurer and I, we apologize for our financials not always being out on time. That's all cleared up. All of our reports, all of our financials, both for the school and the church, are now up to date. And they will be posted once they're ratified by the board. We are up to date and we're ready to move forward. Finally, I just want to say that I know that we are abundantly blessed. We are abundantly blessed. We are prosperous. We're alive. We're vital. We're growing. And comfortable or not, we're evolving. Thank you. Sure.
I have a prosperity appreciation statement to make. We had our relaunch of movie night Friday night. It went great. We had 23 people show up for the first movie, which I thought was terrific. Thank you for coming. But we collected, I didn't count it, but I sort of counted. I put it together for Johanna. It looked like we pulled in about $60. But I actually want to make a plea to the congregation. Johanna shared with me that our industrial popcorn machine that Bradley used to use for his famous popcorn is broken, and that a new commercial industrial machine costs close to $1,000. Now, that's the bad news. But the good news is, I heard through the grapevine, Thomas Gallagher, that you could fix anything. So I was wondering if you could take a stab at trying to fix their popcorn machine, or if not, I mean, Johanna ran to Walgreens and got a bunch of popcorn and water, but we really need to figure out what's the best way to do the popcorn. So if you could, if we could all put our heads together on that, I'd appreciate it. And last comment, shout out to, I think his name, is it Jeffrey? He brought Jeffrey brought mochi popcorn. He brought a huge bag. And thank you all for coming. It was a tough movie about a dog's way home, but it had a really happy ending. So thank you all for coming. And continue to come on the Fourth Friday Flicks.
We will see what we can do with finding out what's going on. Obviously, I can't put the heating element back together if it's the heating element, but I will look at it and see what we can do. Okay, we are about 4 minutes ahead, so it's time for us to move on to the Endowment Foundation, and Karen is here. Okay, Karen is going to present on the Endowment Foundation.
I haven't spoken for a long time. Anyways, good afternoon. I'm Karen Cunningham, and I'm the president now of the Unity of Hawaii Endowment Foundation. We have a great team. There is me, there is Michael Hamnett, Thomas Gallagher, Sally Hartman, and Jack Randall. So we're the board for now. And I just wanted to refresh your minds. I don't know if you all know the definition of what an endowment fund is. So I'm going to read it to you. An endowment fund is an investment fund established by a foundation that makes consistent withdrawals from investment capital. The capital in endowment funds is often used by universities, nonprofits, organizations, churches like us, and hospitals. It is generally utilized to specific needs or to further a company's operating process. So I'm really happy to say that we have around $500,000 in our endowment fund right now. We, as the board, want to protect this endowment fund, and we would like to increase it. It'd be great if I could stand up here next year and say, we have $1 million in our endowment fund. So what we've been doing as a group, we're trying to understand a very complicated ruling, and it's called the Uniform Prudent Management of Institutional Funds Act. That is a guide that everyone has to follow. There's rules and regulations, and I'm in finance, and boy, was that complicated to understand. So Jack did a synopsis for us, kind of brought it down to more of a layman's level so we could understand it. So we're in the process of learning that right now. And we're also in the process of just researching other professionals to oversee the endowment fund. So we're going to be sending a letter out of interest. It would be nice, and I think we would prefer to have someone that is in Hawaii to help manage our funds. So that's it. Any questions?
Any other questions? I will add just a little bit real quickly, just so that everybody knows. As you know, there is 4% of the total that goes out of the endowment foundation every year that comes into the church. As you remember, there was $150,000 that was decided that was borrowed from the endowment fund in I think it was 2012, if I'm not mistaken. It could have been wrong, but in my head it's 2012. And what was decided during the annual meeting in 2018 was that money would be withheld from distribution to the church until which time the loan was paid off. Okay? So this past year, make sure that I'm saying this right. What is 4% of 500,000 is $20,000 thereabouts. So there was $19,000 worth of credit toward the borrow of what ends up being 140,000. So we will pay the borrow off in 7 years unless we've got $1 million in there, and then it gets paid off in 3.5 years instead of 7. So anyway, I will leave it at that. Number 2, I will let you know that at present, the officers that are on the Endowment Foundation are ones that the organizer of the Endowment Foundation selected based on the fact that that's what the attorney told us that we needed to do. And we've got those people, the 5 that were mentioned, that are on the board. Those are to be replaced before too long with board-appointed board of directors by the Board of Trustees, because the Endowment Foundation is a supporting organization of the church. So the Board of Trustees selects the Board of Directors for that. And that will happen, but we're going to wait just a little while until the Board of Directors that we currently have got this all kind of ironed out and got things rolling, so that we're not trying to redo things in the middle of the stream, number 1. And number 2, I want the Board of Trustees to have plenty of time to find extremely experienced and good people to put on the Board of Directors. And I think that we may have some bank presidents, some bank vice presidents, some endowment foundation people that we may be able to tap into from the community that would be an amazing benefit to our endowment foundation. So I think that that's about all I had to say with regards to there. Anything else that you...
No?
Okay.
Yes, hi.
At
Yes.
the bottom there, it said, Thomas informed the board that as reported at the May meeting, the permanent exception from Hawaii State General Excise Tax had been granted. I wanted to know what is an exception when it's in this case?
Do you want to take that one? You want me to? I'll be happy
Yes.
to. So what happens with the endowment foundation when you become either a 501c3 or a 509a3, and don't glaze over as much as I'm going to say, but the 509a3 is when you are a supporting organization of a supported organization, and you can have a tax-exempt status. We initially put in the request for tax-exempt status, and we were granted a temporary exemption until the federal government, IRS, issued us a 509A3 status. Once that happened, I resubmitted to the state requesting a permanent tax-exempt status, and we were issued that. So now the Endowment Foundation is just like the church, with having a permanent tax-exempt status to be able to accept gifts and donations coming in without paying taxes on everything 4% that comes in. Okay, because we're not doing proprietary work in the community. Yes.
Does that mean that both words are interchangeable, exemption and exception? Or should we?
The words that are on there are the words that the federal government uses for a permanent exemption, I'm pretty sure. And I think it says, okay, yeah, they're the same. Just consider them the same. It all means the same, and I apologize for having two separate sets of words in there. Okay? Anything else that we need? We are exactly on time, so we will move to facilities report.
Thank you.
We are on target.
You want to help me up here? Sure. I need a hand. Hello, everyone. I am Mary. I'm representing our facility committee that you all probably didn't even know we had. But we do, and we are entrusted with kind of overseeing and taking care of everything that happens in our buildings and on our grounds. And as you all know, we have a wonderful preschool full of beautiful children that we all just love so much. And we're all very concerned and aware of being concerned about their safety at all times. And so this is a very important, and you guys know, in this day and age, things are really weird out there. Homeless people, unfortunately, are roaming around looking for places to sleep, and we are a wonderful place to sleep and do other things, kind of live, when nobody's around. Well, you wouldn't think so because you wouldn't want to do it, but we've got people who believe that even up there on that second floor up above our classrooms is a great place to crash at night. And so what's been happening is that early in the morning when parents come to drop off their children, they're finding strange-looking people camped out and roaming around. There have been a lot of people who use the facilities in a way that's really awful, and we have to contend with that. They're using our grass and our bushes for bathrooms, and Sergio's digging the stuff up, and Sean's had to dig the stuff up and throw it away. And it's dangerous because you never know the state of mind that some of these people are in. I'm not critical of them. I'm just saying we don't know their state of mind. And one of the things about our preschool is that any parent who comes as a potential with their child is looking at the preschool to see if it has everything that they want for their child, including a safe atmosphere and a safe place to be. And we come up short, unfortunately, in the facilities that we have here. And so Sergio has approached the facilities committee with a plan to do a fencing for just right at this moment, just the preschool area. And he's got a design in mind, and he intends to bring all of the specifications and the submittals from the people that are going to do it straight to the facilities committee, who will then take it to the board. It's going to all have to be approved by our board, everything. And so I'm just letting you know that this is in process. This is a first step, and it will surround the school with a fencing kind of thing that's going to be very attractive. I've seen some pictures of what he has in mind, and it's going to be very attractive, and it's going to keep our keiki and the staff safe. They've got people wandering into their area asking for directions to Diamond Head Trail. I mean, let's face it, this is not a safe situation, and you're all aware of it. And then there's another, the objective is to eventually include the church and our church facilities too, but that's way down the road. And so for the time being, we are looking at this, and Sergio is going to bring us this information, and the facilities committee will review it, and then we will get additional information that we need, and then we will submit it, and the board and Sergio will all agree on everything. So I'm just letting you and keeping you informed on what we're up to and why and what we're doing. Any questions on this?
What in our teachings here at Unity encourages the idea of walls compared to some sort of support or healing for what we perceive as danger here in our community and in ourselves?
That's a very good question, and I agree with you about it philosophically.
No, I mean practically. Practical application is what this place is founded on.
I don't know what the practical applications would be for trying to discourage people from sleeping on the premises and frightening the parents as they come in the morning, which has been happening.
When I worked here before, what I would do is I would say, wake up. This is not an appropriate place to sleep. Yeah. This is not an appropriate place to sleep, but if you'd like to come to service, here's our hours. And they were very respectful, and they left and never came back.
Most of them do, but we've had other incidents that haven't been as pleasant. Sean had an incident with some people that were trying to sleep outside the cave. And when he confronted them with a very polite, Sean, a very polite, this is not a proper place to sleep, they got angry and almost violent and left the premises. We've had some instances where things have been kind of off the rails. Mm-hmm. And right now, our preschool, who's always had a waiting list for keiki, we don't have a waiting list for our preschool anymore. Mm-hmm. Things are competitive out there. And if we're going to keep the preschool, I think we really need to know two things at the same time. First of all, we're always safe. We are always taken care of. God has got our back. Nothing's going to happen. But we have to be practical too. And so it's disruptive to have people wander into the classroom asking for directions. It's disruptive to the staff to have people come. They're harmless. They're tourists.
I would pray that the board and that the facilities management and Sergio really hold that idea as what Ego has presented as a safe zone for now, and pray on that. Look deeper. Look deeper.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Let me make a couple of points though. There are preschool laws, regulations, and you've got to follow the regulations. All of the preschools, all of the nurseries that are federally run have got cameras on every corner. Everything is locked down. You have to have keys, pads to be able to get into the preschools. So if we're not careful with what it is that we do with the preschool, we can be found negligent, and that is not where we want to go. The state and the federal government has got rules and regulations with all of this that we have to abide by, and we cannot not abide by them if we want to keep a preschool. Yes.
That's one of the sacred cows of our community, and I have taken care of them, and I've cleaned after them, and I've loved them and supported them, and I do in this moment. And this is part of why I want to invite us, as we're moving through a transition now into a whole new experience as a spiritual community. And there's some things that have to be let go of, and I'm not saying that the preschool is one of those things. But if we keep clinging to these old ways of protection and fear as a motivator for who we are and what we build here and what we found here, we're just asking to be part of the same old loop. And I know we're better than that. And I don't pretend to know the answers, but I know that I want to be a contributor to them.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
You
want to add anything?
Let me tell you the way that I set this one up is people have got until the end of their time. We have gone past the end of the time, so what we will do is we will take questions at the end. We will let questions go until we get to the time limit for that particular allotted one. So it is now 3 minutes past, and so I am going to ask us to step to the next step, and then we'll come back. Is that okay? Actually, I'm going to suggest that we do that. That's the way we will do it. The next thing that is on your report, the next report for you is the report from Gregory Rouillard. And you have got those in the packet that I passed out. It is the last 8 pages. Gregory Rouillard, when he sent that to us, said that this is for the board, and he suggested that it is really for the congregation as well. So I want to make it completely transparent and public. So all of his report, the whole 8 pages, are given to you here. And for those that are online, realize that this is all on the website also for you. I think that you can read through the whole 8 pages, but I think if we go to the last page that is there, I think it's on page 6, if I'm not mistaken. No, it's page 7 and 8, pardon me. So page 6, if you want to turn to page 6, it's next to the last. And if you want to go to the next slide, Diana, the ones that are on here, his recommendations are to integrate simple practices for communication and connection, such as reflection circles, into all the aspects of the ministry. The second one is to offer fun and meaningful opportunities for large and small group learning, embodied interaction, and that we make time for us all to play together, which we are trying to do a little bit more of. Number 3 was to publicize and integrate the UCOH restorative menu throughout the ministry and to cultivate the resources necessary to sustain. And then on the back, page 4, 5, and 6 are continue to offer opportunities for self-expression and listening, such as sharing circle and healing circles, which you've already seen is on the list. Cultivate resources without the ministry to continue to learn practices of nonviolent communication, which you saw is already on the minister's radar and plan, and then to prioritize practices of connection, such as beginning and ending each meeting with a check-in, so that everybody can say where they are, so that we know kind of where people are emotionally before we get ready to start a meeting, which we have been doing at all the board meetings since. And it has been very helpful just to know where people are, so that if something comes up, somebody says something and you go, I know where that came from. That's not you, that's the situation that is bringing that one up of where you currently are. Okay? I think I'm going to leave it at that, so that I am only 1 minute behind at the present time. So now it's time for us to go into Let's Chat. And so we've got 13 minutes to be able to catch up on where we were when we stopped the other one, so that we can come back.
I'd like to commend you, I don't know your name, but for your comments about being kind to the homeless. But that said, I don't like to live my life in fear, so I hope we can figure out a solution to marry your comments from the facilities committee. But I just wanted to share very quickly, I live right down the street, literally right down the street from the church. And I've lived there for 8 years. And a few months ago, a homeless person came onto my landlady's property. I live in half a house. He laid down under my bedroom window and went to sleep, and scared the heck out of all of us, because he was literally under my bedroom window and my dog was barking. So we had that to contend with, because obviously he trespassed into her property. But more importantly, just last month, I was washing my dishes at 10 o'clock at night, and I saw these blue light reflections, and I went out on the street because I have to walk around the carport to see the street, and there were 8 police cars between Esther and Francis, which scared me to death because I've never seen anything like that. And the police officer told me, he said, "Did you hear anything? Did you see anything?" And I said, "What was I supposed to hear and see?" And he said, "A female drug addict." Well, he didn't know at that point because they hadn't found her, but they did find her. So I found out from him later they were searching because a woman had crawled into my neighbor's window while he was home and busted out his window and scared the heck out of him. So what's my point in sharing this story? The police officer, I want to move this to a positive. The police officer said to me, "Miss Banning, I don't want you to be scared. I just want you to be more mindful of the surroundings, do things like put in lights, put in extra security, that type of thing that you're thinking of." So in the facilities committee, I think we need to be aware. The police told us that the crime rate is increasing here and the activity, intrusive activity is increasing. And we just need to make wise decisions to make sure we're going the right way. So I think you're going in the right direction. So thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you very much. And just so that people are a little more clear, at present, we're just talking about trying to find ways to fence off the preschool grounds so that people aren't. Right now, the gate that's right out here, the wooden one, you push on it and it falls apart. It doesn't do any good. And all you have to do is lift the lever and you walk right in. Anybody can walk right in. And it's not secure for a preschool. It does not support the requirements of the preschool. And yeah, liability-wise. So I hear you well, and it's not the desire of the church to make this a Vatican that you can't get into.
Yes, and my heart on the subject is from being a part of actually kind of battling it out with city councils and police officers when they were getting illegal funds provided to them for the street sweeper project and for these construction of these really pretty, all through Waikiki, if you guys notice, all the really pretty flower beds and how they kind of jut out in this really awesome design. Well, what that design is that same kind of a thing. Like, how can we prevent people from laying here? Because we have a certain amount of sidewalk that has to be provided for handicapped. And so if we make these really fancy designs that will prevent people from legally being there, then we can shove them out. And we can then put sprinklers in the park to come on at random hours so they can't sleep there. And so the problem has just been pushed up into our front lawns and into our preschool because of those same kinds of level of consciousness thinking that's going on in Waikiki with the police and with the city councils. And so it's just pushing the problem. And so with building a fence, I think is fine if that's what needs to be done for liability, but we are a beacon of light in the community, so we can do more than just push it up in somebody else's front yard. Like, that's the point.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. There are another...
All right, Tom, I have a question.
Please do. I apologize. Didn't see you.
That's all right. I was just wondering, I'm a commercial real estate broker, have been for almost a half a century. I have a lot of clients that own large buildings, warehouses, and facilities. And I think that, I don't know if we've explored about getting like Securitas in, getting someone to just be a guard around our property here rather than building walls and fences. I don't know what the cost would be to get a contract 24/7 versus the cost of putting up walls and gates, but it might be something that the church should look into, the cost of just having the security people here.
Gotcha. Okay. I hear you. I will real briefly say that the part that the preschool is doing for over here is going to be coming out of the money that the preschool has raised from parents who are concerned about their children, and so they have raised the money to put some of the security fencing around the preschool. So it's not coming out of the funds that are in the church's general operating budgets. Be careful that we're not saying that they're not part of us. We are all together. But
yeah, I was going to apologize for not saying that this money that they want to use has been raised by their parents that are paying the tuition, that want to see a more safe campus for their children. And I hear what you're saying. I agree with you about what you're saying in so many ways. I also know a lot about Securitas, and we could look at it, but it can run as high as $3,000-4,000 a month and more. And that wouldn't even be 24/7. That would just be during the evening, at night, because that's my field. Security is my field. And so it would be only at night. And during the day is when we have problems also. We don't have them just at night. So, yeah. Okay, I'm done. That's finished.
Other questions, comments? Joanne?
When we began the preschool in 74, 75, we had no gates. There were no fences at all. I used to take the kids in my van with no seat belts. We would go to the zoo. I'd say, that tree and that rock, and we have agreement, yes, okay. I'd say, come, and they'd come, and we'd come and go. I mean, it was cool. But life isn't like that anymore, it seems to me. And I agree with you, Eric, that we need to have ongoing prayer about safety, too. So that's part of our consciousness. But the rules and regs for preschools now are just a whole nother level of constriction. but I mean, so we have to be, that people can actually walk in the gate without, and there's no office, there's nothing to be between the people who can come in and the children, really. And I know in other preschools that's not, that can't happen. So yes, we need to follow the rules and regs, and I want to add your piece too. Thank you very much.
Most certainly. Yes.
Say something about the people asking for directions to Diamond Head. They should have a sign. Somebody should just put a sign out there with an arrow pointing this way to Diamond Head. That would solve that problem.
Gotcha. Okay. Diana, did you have?
Yes, about the facilities. We had a pretty bad plumbing situation going on last week. I was wondering, if there's any. Actually, I thought, or maybe not. Plumbing hadn't been worked on yet.
Okay, so what Diana is asking is recently, this past week, we've had 2 separate issues, actually, of plumbing and electrical work. And so we are working with some of our pipes. We are contracting out to in the kitchen in this main building because it seems to be some type of stoppage or something like that. And then with the men's bathroom. So we're working on those. We have people identified, and it should be not an issue sometime this coming week.
Thank you. So they're going to fix the problems, but was there anything else we were going to do with the facilities, like we did the roof? What other projects?
The water fountains were put in, the gutters, and what about the wood over the wellness center?
Yeah, there were a couple of things with regards to termite damage and other things that are in the process of trying to get completed. And Bruce and I are trying to see what we can do, and Doug has also been trying to see what we can do. But we're in the process. And then we had another person today come up and say, I'm more than happy to see what I can do with helping you guys with carpentry, painting, and a variety of other things. I love this church. This church was amazing. When I walked in today, I was drawn here for some reason, and I want to help. So we've got people doing this like crazy, and so it's really, really neat. We got 2 more minutes.
Perfect timing for me. I'm Catherine Burton on the fundraising committee. And we know that this town hall has been a place of really energizing our transition fund. And I'm wondering if people would be open to passing the blessing bowl and to take an offering right now. Would that be, and just to do that for people who want to give an offering, because we are looking at trying to raise that $50,000. We've had raised the roof, and now we're raising ourselves. We're raising our spirits. So if we could start just passing the bowl or giving time for people to actually get out their offerings if they would like. Anything that you give just supports that consciousness. Let's just put it that way. So, and this goes to Unity. It's not a restricted fund, but it helps pay for all the things that we talked about, for all the people who have come. Thank you.
So I just want to say a little bit about what Eric was speaking about, and that is when we have an issue here, like if there's homeless problems and we want to be part of the solution as a community and to hold the consciousness of safety, but also to follow our mission, transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in the world. And how would that equate in the homeless world, right? So what could we do to support our homeless friends, right? Rather than have them sleeping on our site, what could we do as a community? And I don't have the answer. I'm just saying that's maybe a better question, right, than building several fences, although I agree that a community that has a preschool has to have safety and that we have to do that. But we don't necessarily have to build a wall around the whole place, right? So it does come to consciousness about increasing that, but also, so how can we be a beneficial presence in supporting our community and dealing with homelessness? Okay, that would be my suggestion.
Just for Reverend Denise, just about 3 weeks ago, Reverend Denise, Suzanne Sims had people come here from Texas, and they had a whole evening on homelessness and the solution, which is really building some kind of home shelter for the homeless, so.
Super, super, super. Okay, I think we're going to, is it something that you wanted? I'm going to try our best to adhere to our promises of timeliness. If somebody has a real burning comment, raise a hand.
Very positive homeless projects going on in Hawaii. One of them is the housing being built on Sand Island by a local contractor, Dwayne Kurisu. And there's also another one that's a health center that's being added on to a homeless community. I'm sorry, I forget the name of it, but it's in Monday's newspaper, the 24th. Great article. We can be part of.
I sat on the board under John Strickland's regime, and I was the treasurer, and we were flush. Okay? Now I hear now all the time how we're lacking. Well, we had Japanese weddings here. We were generating cash flow from this facility. And probably because where I come from, generating cash flow for improvements, we need to look at some programs where we can generate cash flow, like the weddings. Okay, maybe have Chinese weddings now. I'm just saying we've got to change our mindset to generating cash flow.
Exactly, and we've got some real people that are working on that strategic planning wise, and thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, Denise, would you mind, or one of you be happy? Johanna, would you, or Levitt, plan us out? Plan us out and pray us out.
Okay, all right. Yeah, let's make a circle, everyone, as we come together during this time. Yeah. So, all right. And what a wonderful time together. 1 hour and 2 minutes. Congratulations. We did it. So, all right. Let us join together in our circle of love, or what? Yeah, something like that. Connected, hand in hand, heart to heart. And here comes Miss Diana. So we'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out today, and for those that have live streamed as well. You are invited into the circle. In consciousness, you are here with us, and so mahalo for joining us this past hour. And as we take this time, let us just look around this beautiful circle at one another, that this is our spiritual community, each one of us being led here, being guided here by Spirit to be contributors, to be the voice, to be the love that is a Unity Church of Hawaii. And so let us just give thanks for this present time together. We give thanks to the Spirit, knowing that peace has been established during this time, that that this community is moving forward, that each and every one of us makes a positive difference, not only in this community, and it's showing, but making that positive difference beyond these walls as we start to touch and reach out beyond these walls to the greater community. And so we give thanks to each other, to our leadership, the Board of Trustees, Reverend Denise, the staff, the volunteers, and the members that make this the spiritual beacon of the Pacific. And so thank you, everyone, and we thank God for this time to be together. And so it is. Amen. Done.
Ralph, you want to start us with
Weave us together, weave us together in unity and love. Weave us together, weave us together in unity and love.
Thank you, guys.
I'll help count.
Whoever, I don't want,
I'll help count.
I shouldn't because I'm not in that.
You want to help count? Yeah.